Hello and welcome back to our fun time that we've been having with proofs. Per request from some of you, I've decided to do one more of these. It starts as cosine of theta plus 1 divided by sine cubed of theta, and that's equal to the cosecant of theta over 1 minus cosine of theta. So when I'm looking at this, the first thing that I see that I don't really particularly like is that there's this cosine of theta plus 1 over here in the numerator. I see that there's a 1 minus cosine of theta over here. Those are sort of related to one another. But I also see this sine cubed of theta, which I don't really like. I like sines. I like sine squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sine cubed and I'm going to rewrite it as sine multiplied by sine squared. So my left side is going to look like the cosine of theta plus 1 divided by the sine of theta multiplied by the sine squared of theta. Now, I like this for a couple of reasons. One is that this sine of theta is multiplying by my entire rest of my denominator, which means that it can move upstairs and turn into a cosecant. That's a good thing because there's a cosecant over here on the right-hand side. So let's just do that and see where that takes us. We've got cosecant of theta multiplied by cosine of theta plus 1 divided by sine squared of theta. Now, the other thing that I see is that this is now a sine squared of theta, which I know is related to one of my Pythagorean identities. So I can rewrite that sine squared of theta as something that'll make me a lot happier, 1 minus cosine squared of theta. And some of you might be able to see where we're going to go from here. We now have cosecant of theta multiplied by the cosine of theta plus 1 divided by 1 minus the cosine squared of theta. And over here, it's just 1 minus cosine of theta, and some of you might recognize that this is a difference of two squares, which means that we can factor it. So we have cosecant of theta multiplied by cosine of theta plus 1 divided by 1 plus cosine of theta multiplied by 1 minus cosine of theta. That makes me happy because the cosine of theta plus 1 will cancel with 1 plus the cosine of theta. They're the same. And then I have what I was looking for, which is the cosecant of theta divided by 1 minus the cosine of theta. And we have completed our proof. Hopefully that helps people a little bit with dealing with one of these proofs that's a little bit trickier. Just to recap the things that we did, we saw the sine cubed and we rewrote it as sine times sine squared. We saw that this was a 1 minus cosine of theta, which I can create out of a 1 minus cosine squared of theta, which made this thing appealing after I had the sine squared of theta. And we recognize that a sine multiplying by the denominator is worth a cosecant multiplying by the numerator. So we were able to rewrite this sine of theta as a cosecant multiplying by the quantity cosine of theta plus 1. Hopefully that helps everybody, and hopefully you're staying warm on this chilly Saturday. Be well, everyone, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.